We are talking to a home builder today with what he's seeing on the ground. Chris Funk is back on the show to bring us up to date on industry trends because he founded one of America's top highest volume build-to-rent investment property providers in America. He's also in property management. He manages thousands of doors, and he is one of our GRE marketplace providers. Hey, Chris, welcome back onto the show.
Great to see you again, sir. How are you?
Hey, fantastic. But you got your work cut out for you. That's quite a resume that I read for you there, and you're going to have to live up to it. But you know what? You always do. You don't sell homes to owner-occupied buyers. You sell rental homes to investors. That's really who you serve. And you serve mostly Florida and a little bit of Georgia as well.
Absolutely. We only do investment properties.
And being that build-to-rent provider, meaning you build a brand new construction project and product for that investor that ends up buying it. Why don't we talk about that home construction lifespan, maybe starting back with where you have to secure vacant land tracts. Now, I would imagine that you need to have enough vacant land that you already secure and own ahead of time so that you can confidently build. But I would imagine then on the other end of the spectrum, you don't want to get too much vacant land that will take you a while to build upon because you have some carrying costs related to owning too much property at one time that isn't built on. So tell us in that construction lifespan about that securing vacant land tracts part.
We have to go get an engineer to design that part, design the roads and the sewer and the water lines and all the retention ponds, that type of deal. And when we find that, we typically find it in pretty much the same way. You find a vacant piece of land, you have to track down the owner and talk them into selling the land to you. But in those situations, we can typically get much longer contracts, meaning that we say, hey, we want to buy your land, but it's not zoned for single family residential. It's not engineered for a subdivision. And so we have to, explain all of that to the property owner and say, this is a process to make that happen. So if we have to rezone the property, that could take 6 months. We have to engineer the property, that could take 6 to 9 months. And then once the property is fully engineered is typically when we would then want to close on that property. So we try to not close on property until it's been rezoned and engineered. Now, sometimes we will buy it before the engineering's done, but almost never will we buy it before the zoning's done. And so that means that we contract and we don't close for another year to 15 months.
That's a long runway.
It's a long runway. And then, once we close, then we have to develop the land, and to develop, say, one of our 100-lot subdivisions, that could take another 12 months. So before we put the first slab in the ground on building a home, we're already well over 2 years into that project. So we, as a developer, we have to take a very long approach to these deals, and we're looking at land that's 2 to 3 years out before we would have completed homes.
You said so many interesting things there. One might wonder, why go through that hassle of building on an infill lot, which might only be, say, 1 quarter-acre lot, and you have to track down the owner in Kansas City or Wichita or wherever they are. They are build ready.
Yes, they come with their own set of challenges, but they're still faster than developing a whole new subdivision. And, they're in existing areas, which enables us to build in a wide range of areas. Because remember, we're here to rent these properties. So after we build them, we hand them off to our property management company who has to then lease them up. So, the scattered infill lots give you a lot of variety over a wide geography, that allow us to build more without oversaturating an individual area.
All right. Well, now that you have the tract, whether it's a bunch of contiguous ones or even if it's an individual infill one, talk to us about some of those major construction stages in order, because I was investing in real estate for quite a while until really I even understood all of those stages. So, for example, on new contiguous tracts, that might start with something like clearing and grubbing that area where you plan to build a number of homes and digging for foundations and putting a slab in and all that. So why don't you talk to us chronologically, Chris, about those major construction stages from beginning to end?
So we'll talk about the big subdivisions first, and then we'll talk about infill lots. So on the larger subdivisions, you're exactly right. Once you get all of your permits, so you have to get a permit from the St. John's River Water Management District. You have to get one from the Army Corps of Engineers. You have to get a permit from the local utility company. You have to get a permit from the local municipality. And if it's a city and a county, you might have to get one from both of them. So there's a litany of permits that you have to get, and you have to engineer the site, meaning that you have to design the site to make sure that you're accounting for all the impervious material that you're putting on. So impervious material being roads, houses. So the biggest part of the engineering is really making sure that water goes where you want it to, whether that's sewer flowing in the right direction towards a lift station on the site, or whether that's rainwater flowing into the drain basins that you build on the site. When you're done, it all looks like, oh, okay, they just moved a bunch of dirt down around and put a road down. But there's really a lot of math and engineering that went into making sure that it functions properly and that you can really get rid of the water.
Over that overall site drainage pattern from embankments to swales.
Exactly. And once you have those engineered plans, that's when you can go get your clearing permit. And you're exactly right. The first step is your clearing and grubbing. So clearing's pretty, simple, right? You're cutting the trees down, and, you're either going to cut them down and, haul them off, if somebody's willing to buy them for lumber, or you're burning them on sites to get rid of them. And then after you do the clearing, then you're doing the grubbing. And that's typically where a tractor with a very big looking claw thing on the front of it runs through the dirt, and it picks up all the stumps and all the roots and everything that you would not want under the foundation of your house. And so then you get all of that stuff out of the way. And then the next part depends on your site specifically. So if you have a site that's already at grade, meaning that the engineering plans fit with the local topography of the location, then you can go along your merry way. If not, and a lot of times in Florida, you have to fill the site. And what that means is you've got to bring dirt, whether you're digging dirt out of a pond on the property, or you're bringing in dirt from another location to raise the level of the site. And you might have to raise that site for multiple reasons. One main reason in Florida that we raise sites is to take them out of a flood zone. Florida is very flat. So, to get out of a flood zone, you might have to raise a property 2 or 3 feet. And then, so you raise the whole site 2 or 3 feet, and then now all of a sudden you're out of the flood zone. So that's one main reason that you would raise them. The other main reason would be if you needed to raise a portion of the site to make it drain properly. Now we've filled the site, and we've got, several layers of dirt, which all need to be compacted. So typically in 1 foot lifts. You have to lay the dirt down and then roll a big roller over it to make sure it's nice and compacted. And once all of that's done, then you can start the pipe work, the underground work.
Okay. So this is fill then that's already been brought in, oftentimes to elevate the site. And now you have to excavate back down into the fill that was just compacted with rollers, like some people call these things steamrollers. Yes.
Yep, exactly. And so then, now you've got to dig trenches in that nicely compacted dirt that you just did. You've got to dig trenches, and that's where you're going to start putting those sanitary systems. So the sanitary systems typically run underneath the road. And so you dig down, you dig a trench, you put the main sanitary line in, and then you're putting laterals out where each house is going to be. So there's a pipe coming off of the main, and it's stubbed out in the front yard of the home in which you're going to build eventually, but you're still a long way from building. So after you get the sewer in, same thing with water. A main water line goes down the middle, and you're pulling laterals off of that, and you're putting them to where the water meter box is ultimately going to be. And then you're starting with your stormwater system. So then your stormwater system goes in, and that's what collects and transports all of the just runoff into the catch basins. And the catch basins are very important. And really what a catch basin does is it makes sure that we're not polluting. And, so, cars drive on these roads, there's oil that's leaking on the roads and gasoline or whatever may be leaking on the roads. When all of that goes into these catch basins, these retention ponds, those are really like big septic tanks, for lack of a better. The water is meant to perk through those, and it's meant to filter out any of the impurities before that water goes back into our wetlands and before it goes into, back into, potentially seeping down into the ground and being drinking water. So the point of those is to stop the water from just flooding straight into our wetlands as dirty water. Once it goes to the catch basins, it's cleaned. So it's a very important part of the process. Not to mention, it creates big lakes and ponds on the properties, which look pretty. So now we've put in all of our storm pipe, we've put in all of our sanitary sewer, we've put in all of our water lines. Now we put all the dirt back on top and we re-roll the dirt over top of them. Make sure it's nice and compacted.
Chris and I are going deep, really in a literal sense here with all this work that we're doing in the ground. And how many residents think about this as they carefully monitor the thermostat on their air conditioner inside their unit?
This is it. This is my one time to explain how much work goes into all of this. So then we go to the electrical side of things. So we have to put in conduit underneath all the roads. So we have to put in crossings everywhere the main lines for the primary lines for the electric are going to come in. And once we put that conduit down, now we can go ahead and put in our curbs. So the curb that goes along the side of the road, we put the curb in. Then we put down a sub base in between the curbs. So, where the road's going to be, you have to put down a sub base and a base. And then you're putting asphalt on top of that. So, we're putting down typically one layer of asphalt to begin with. Then the electric company has to come do their thing. So it's the electric company's responsibility to come put transformers on the site. If there's street lights, the electric company comes and put those in. And then they pull the primary lines to the transformers and they do what's go hot. So when they go hot, that's when we can actually start to use our lift station. And I haven't described that yet, but the lift station, when I was mentioning earlier how the sewer has to be angled in a way that it's going in the right direction, well, the direction it's headed is to the lift station. So all the sewer goes to the lift station via gravity, meaning that there's no pumps. It's just all flowing in a gravity manner. Then when it goes to the lift station is a high pressure pump. So on one side, it's gravity sewer coming in. On the other side, it's a high pressure and force main line going out. And so the sewer gets pumped now out of this high pressure line into the main city line. So when the power gets turned on from the power company, that's when we're able to then turn on the sewer system. This is when everything really starts to come to life. This is when we can now go ahead and start to build some houses.
Brilliant description of all the site work that needs to be done. A lot of people have no idea what all that encompasses.